Hello, welcome to episode 4 of the Internet Podcast. Got some more things to talk about this week. We'll be talking about the Champions League final and the Prem New Boys, amongst some other things. So, what did you guys think of the Champions League final last week ago now?
Yeah, I think we all got it wrong, in particular Lam, who said Man City will
He was
destroy.
so sure, wasn't
Yeah. But yeah, for sure. I think Chelsea surprised all of us. Would we all agree with that?
he? Yeah. I mean, I think they just completely stopped Man City doing what Man City do best and deserved the win at the end of the day, I think.
Do you think it was a tactical masterclass from Tuchel, or do you think Pep got it wrong? Or
Both,
both?
I think. Yeah, yeah, I do think both. I think. I mean, I thought that he started a good team last week in terms of sometimes in the big games he'll throw an extra defensive midfield player on, but this time he went the other way. Didn't have any sort of defence-minded midfielders, and they just missed Gundogan further up the pitch because he was having to sit deeper. But yeah, Chelsea were really good. Kante and Reece James were unbelievable.
Yeah, I think to add to that, I was very, very surprised by what Pep did in terms of the lineup. Because I think even when we were on the show last week with Lam, we were expecting Fernandinho or Rodri to, at least one of them, to play and be that holding midfield role and protect the back four. And I think looking at how Tuchel was setting up ever since he's joined Chelsea with that back three, Pep was probably thinking, you know what, I fancy this. Let's just go a more attacking lineup. We can just let Gundogan sit as the holding midfielder. We don't need Fernandinho and or Rodri, and we can just basically try and play the possession and just get it forward to our front line and see what we can do. At the very start, it looked like it was going to work, and then as the game progressed, I guess when Chelsea started settling into the game, you could see that it clearly wasn't working, and especially when Chelsea got the first goal. Um, yeah, what can I say? It's a case where when you saw Fernandinho come on, it was a completely different team. They actually had some sort of support and backbone in front of the defense, but it was lacking for a good first half and a lot longer. Well, I guess a large part of the second half as well until the substitutions were made. Yeah, I was slightly disappointed by City, to be fair. Um, but yeah, it is what it is. I think Chelsea were the better team on the day. Tuchel got his team selection right, and that goal from Havertz pretty much summed it up. I think it was poor defending from Zinchenko. Uh, but yeah, you could also say the same about the goalkeeper positioning with Edison as well. So
Yeah,
mistakes are
yeah.
costly.
It was a blow losing De Bruyne, but I mean they'd not really created much even with him on the pitch, had they?
Yeah. And I think they've played the season without De Bruyne as well. So I think if it was a complete shock without playing without De Bruyne, um, having played with him all season and then all of a sudden to lose him in the final would have been a big thing. But they've had periods of the season where they haven't played with him, so it's not like it was like a massive adjustment to the team. That, oh my god, what do we do? They've been there before
Yeah,
this season. But obviously, I think Max, you touched on it 2 weeks ago about how good De Bruyne is. So yeah, there's no getting away from the fact that he's a massive player to lose. But yeah, I don't think they should have coped really.
oh yeah, they got the players to cope, haven't they? But yeah, it's not even as if Chelsea were particularly defensive. I was chatting to someone at work the other day, and they were saying that sort of Chelsea were just happy to defend, and I don't think that was fair. I think that they came with a game plan, and they didn't give City the time on the ball that City thrive on, and they just pressed so well. I mean, Kante, he was just everywhere, closing down, winning headers. It was just such a good, probably Chelsea's best 90 minutes of the season.
Mm.
It's in the Champions League final, and they deserved it. As annoying as it was, because my father-in-law was a Chelsea fan, and he come round to watch it, and it was horrible.
I mean, the other thing you could say is that in terms of the chances, like even before Havertz scored, Werner could have scored. Apart from he scuffed it, and then Pulisic almost had a chance to make it 2-0, and I genuinely thought that was going to be a goal, and then it went wide. So yeah, I think we probably should drop a note there. Obviously, for those who've been watching previous episodes, you might notice that Lamb is missing today. Unfortunately, he's been held up with a few issues, notably to do with some leaking, and is still requiring some plumbing services. He did say, "Make sure you reiterate I said Man City would win the Champions League,"
Yeah.
or something along those lines.
True
But
story. True story.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it says Chelsea here, but I think there's a
Not
typo.
just win the
Yeah,
Champions League. I think he mentioned the word destroy
yeah.
Chelsea.
Yeah, yeah. He said that there'd be nothing left of Chelsea.
Yeah. So yeah, there goes his prediction.
He's
Anyway,
probably just in hiding now.
yeah, yeah. To be honest, how do you show your face after that prediction?
But going on from this, personally, I said after the game, I said I think City win it next year. I think they'll really like sort of they'll focus. They know now what it takes to get there. They'll know what the occasion's like, and like they've never done it as a club. Like I know obviously Pep's done it as a manager, but how many of those players in the squad? I wouldn't want to say I have actually no idea, but how many of those players have played in Champions League finals?
Well, Gundogan played one and lost one.
Yeah,
Um,
other than Gundogan.
yeah,
I mean,
I
can't
wouldn't
think
know
of
from the top of my head. I'd have to go through the list, but
it.
yeah,
But next year, I honestly think that obviously they're not a shoe in to win it, but if they're in the latter stages, then I think that they'll use this sort of experience that they've had this year to sort of be more aware.
yeah. I mean, it happened with Liverpool when we lost to Madrid, and then we came back the following year and then won it against Spurs.
Yeah.
So I think it is a test of character. Like a lot of these players probably went to a Champions League final for the first time, not really knowing what to expect or like what the pressure is, especially given that it was a final with fans, better in mind, and we've had a large bulk of the season behind closed doors. So not just the added pressure of being in uncharted territory in the final, but also in front of fans and supporters actually watching you. So yeah, the pressure was on, but I think now that they've learned from that experience, they can reflect, and then obviously we expect City to go and strengthen next season, especially with Aguero moving to Barcelona. There is a void in um, the number 9 role per se, or the striker role, and I know that they got Gabriel Jesus, and they've been playing a lot of players in the false 9 position, but you'd expect them to go out and actually buy like a world class striker who is going to get them the goals to win the games and win the titles as well. And this is a bit funny with even talking about this, given how they've basically romped the end of the Premier League season
Yeah.
and won that title so convincingly. It's basically like that thorn that they haven't managed to somehow acquire that Champions League title that they
Yeah.
kind of dream of or
I know,
long for.
and I kind of want them to win it with Pep in charge because it I think that what he's built there and the sort of success they've had probably deserves a Champions League sort of for the history books.
It's
I
the
hope
only thing that's missing.
yeah, 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 and I think they deserve it as well. I think they deserve it, but probably well, no, they don't deserve it because they lost the final. But right, so we've seen the Champions League final last week, and we know now all 20 teams for the Premier League next season. Brentford winning the playoff final at a bit of a canter in the end. They beat Swansea 2-0, and I myself can't wait for them to be in the Premier
Yeah.
League because it stops them beating Bristol City
I
twice.
mean, you called it last week.
Yeah,
You did make that recording, and you did mention that you think Brentford are going to do it, and I think it probably was a lot easier for them than they probably expected. I think the penalties just set off a really, really shaky start for Swansea, and then after 2-0, I don't think they ever looked like getting back into the game, which was
no,
quite a disappointing playoff final, but I think Brentford, the amount of times they've got to this stage and they've faltered, and it's literally like I think even the manager, is it Thomas Frank, who just basically said, finally it's happened, and
Yeah,
I think like you can always have so much bad luck in the playoff finals, but to finally actually achieving it and then going up, yeah, props to them. And it's a team who actually do play somewhat good football as well,
really well.
which I'm actually kind of pleased about because I think I said it in a previous episode, but I really don't like this whole Sam Allardyce style brand of football. Same with the whole what happened with West Brom this season. Like
Mm,
I do want to see teams that come up basically take the game to the big teams and play their own style and own brand of football. I think Brentford hopefully will continue doing that in the Premier League. Also Tony as well as a striker. I think this is like his time coming. He's had a formidable season in the Championship, and I think at the end of the playoff, he said that he's now a Premier League striker, and
yeah,
he's going to have to prove that and basically support what he mentioned in the interviews. So looking forward to seeing him in the Premier League as well.
yeah. What about Watford? Watford are back. They've not really lost anyone. They've kept most of their well, they kept Ismail Sarr, who was
Yeah,
unbelievable last season in the Championship. So
Even in the
mm,
Prem the year before, he was he linked to big teams, wasn't he? So I'm
yeah,
surprised they kept hold of him.
yeah, me too, me too. But I think they wanted the money that he was worth, and nobody was willing to pay it. But yeah, I think he's going to have another good season in the Prem.
yeah. I think if I'm honest with you, in terms of Watford and Norwich, those two sides, they are a bit like these ping pong or bounce back ability teams
Yeah,
where they do
yo-yo.
yo-yo. Yeah, they do yo-yo between the Premier League and the Championship. I think both sides, Watford especially, the quality that they have in their players, the Premier League experience that they have in that team, they were probably punching above weight in the Championship. And like, I'm not really surprised that Watford are back. It's just a question with like a lot of those players are probably either towards the end of their prime or is an aging squad. So it'll be interesting to see what they will do to replenish it and basically sign some players to support them in terms of trying to remain in the Premier League next season. Because I think the biggest challenge for Watford is that going up is one thing, but they don't want to go back down straight away. And I think Norwich is the same situation. Um, they want to be promoted in the Premier League. They want to be in the Premier League to stay. The question is like, how do they make the past mistakes? I mean, it's harsh putting Watford in that manner because they have had spells where they have had a few seasons in the Premier League before going down, but I think the same logic applies. What are they going to do differently to go up and remain in the Premier League?
Yeah, I think with Norwich, I'm really looking forward to seeing them back in the Prem because you said about it earlier, Hugh, that you like it when teams come up and take games to the bigger clubs, and Norwich definitely did that. There's absolutely no negotiation on the way they play with Farke. He just wants them to play attractive attacking football. It doesn't matter who they're playing, they look to attack. And I think if they spend a bit more money this time without sacrificing what they've already got there, I think they've got a chance because last time they come up, they barely spent any money and they gave it a good go, really.
Yeah, but I think they mentioned that they won't go out and sign big players, even though they get like 100 mil for getting or whatever the figure is now with all
Yeah,
the.
but I think last time they come up, the only player they spent money on was Sam Byram from West Ham,
Yeah,
who's their third choice right back, and I'm not saying that they're going to go out and sign strikers for 30 million, but they've got such a good recruitment network. I mean, they picked up Buendia from the Spanish second division. If they can sort of pick up a few, obviously they're not going to pick up a load more Buendias, but if they can sort of pick up some more unfashionable players from the continent that are sort of capable of doing it for like 10 million, a couple of those could make the difference in them staying up because they've got some good players there. If they can keep hold of them, like Max Aarons and you've got Pookie, who is a goal scorer. So I'd love them to stay up.
And talking about retaining players, I don't know if anyone's seen the news recently, but there are strong rumours about one of the players that Max just mentioned, Buendia, moving to potentially Aston Villa for a record signing fee. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? And I think it is a bit of a sucker punch, especially with Norwich going up. Buendia, who I think was probably one of their star players in that promotion bid, it looks like he's going to be moving on to another Premier League side.
Yeah, well, I think it's a sad moment for Arsenal fans, really, because they were in for Buendia with Villa, and it looks like Villa are getting players ahead of Arsenal now, and that Arsenal fans can say what they want about Buendia, that we wouldn't want to spend 30 million on a Championship player anyway. He's not a Championship player. He's a Premier League player that was playing in the Championship last season. He is more than good enough to play for Arsenal, and Villa are going to get a hell of a player. And if they keep hold of Grealish as well, I know a lot of people are saying this probably means that Grealish is going, but I don't know if they can keep hold of Grealish and sign Buendia, and they could do something serious next season.
Oh, are we now saying that Aston Villa are a bigger club than Arsenal?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, why not?
Ibi, do you want to share some thoughts about that?
No, I agree with Max. I think if they can keep hold of Grealish, which I think at the moment, I want to say it's unlikely, but at the same time, there's not a lot of talks about Grealish moving place. I mean, last season, same thing happened, right? Grealish is moving, he's definitely leaving, but there was no real links with any clubs. So if it's just rumors and he ends up staying, yeah, you can just see them two running the show for Villa. But yeah, I don't. I don't know about Arsenal. You just think like, do they still think they are where they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago? Perhaps in their mind, Arsenal fans, they think that, and that's why certain players, they probably think like, oh, we're too good to sign this player if he's played in the Championship, or if he's in the bottom half, teams of the Premier League or whatever. But yeah, at the same time, I can understand it from a United fan. Like if United aren't where they are, again, 7-8 years ago. So if United were linked to players who weren't really United standard, so to speak, you would feel like, oh, actually, that's a step down. We should be signing players who, are in and around the top 4, top 6. That's just the mindset that people have. Obviously, it doesn't always. I remember United when we signed Louis Saha from Fulham. He wasn't, Fulham weren't a massive club, but Fergie saw the potential and signed him. So it's not like you always have to go for the players playing for the big clubs. You can buy even when we signed Carrick from Spurs weren't what they are now, right? Spurs were a top 10, 12 team, right? They were, yeah. Now obviously since Pochettino, they've become, a Champions League fighting team kind of thing, but they were never really in for the top 4 spots back then. So yeah, Arsenal thinking we always need to sign the superstars, especially where they are now, it's a bit ridiculous, really.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, but you can also almost understand it as well, because I think Liverpool went through that phase where they were only signing those types of players. So where you had like Chelsea, United, Arsenal signing bigger players. Liverpool went through a phase where they were signing like Bellamy, Downing, people like that who weren't. Don't get me wrong, Bellamy. I actually rate Craig Bellamy, and even Peter Crouch. He's a good player, but is he the type of player that's going to win you leagues?
Yeah, and then like even if you think more recently, Andy Robertson came from Hull, a recently relegated team, for like 8.5 million.
I think you can do that so long as you're also topping up with the good players. So you can take a chance on a lesser player and he might end up being good. But if he doesn't, you've still got your big players to kind of make that transfer window a success, or whatever you want to call it. Like, for example, when United signed Saha, we had Rooney, we had Van Nistelrooy, we had players like that. So if you sign Alan Smith, for example, and he didn't quite cut it, it's not the end of the world. Whereas when Liverpool were signing players like Downing, I think the problem was you were relying on him to do a job on the wing without any other good players there. So if he didn't work, then that's all you had. Whereas I think when United were signing those players, like even Liverpool now are signing Robertson and taking a chance on him, I guess. I'm not saying he was a chance because he was doing very well at Hull, but I'm saying even if it was a chance, then okay, we've got other players in that team who can do a job. So it's not like we're relying on that left back to carry Liverpool. Not that you would ever rely on a left back to
Yeah,
carry.
but you say that, and then going back to a few episodes ago, we were talking about Leicester City, and they're not a team who generally go out for and spend big money for big players, but their recruitment network is phenomenal, and identifying talents like even at a young age, or even like people who are up and coming, like Madison, for example, and even like you can even go further back to the likes of Jamie Vardy and a few others earlier on. I guess in the 2010s, like you don't need to spend big money to get big talent. I think it also depends on the recruitment network, the scouting departments, and all the research and I guess the networks that they have available to them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. So in terms of transfers, there's a few more that are rumored. The rumor that just keeps going on and on about Sancho, that seems to be sort of doing the rounds again now. So yeah, you're a United fan. You got to be happy if Sancho turns up, haven't you?
I think it makes the bigger players like wanna again. I understand what you were saying, Hugh, about Leicester and the whole recruitment setup and stuff. But I think big players they do get a buzz of signing, having other big players, big names playing around them. I think Rooney once, there was this whole thing about him throwing his toys out of the pram. Apparently, that was in the papers that United weren't going in the right direction. And so if you want, like for example, if Pogba goes and Bruno's there by himself, and say like up front we're not signing anyone, we're not really signing defenders and midfielders. Give it 2 years and Barca come knocking or Madrid come knocking. Bruno's gonna stick around. He's gonna think, okay, where am I gonna go and win trophies, and where am I gonna play with better players around me? And I think getting Sancho will make the likes of Bruno. Not Bruno's in a rush to go, but I'm saying 2 seasons down the line, 3 seasons down the line, what's he going to be thinking? I think signing players like Sancho on a big transfer can sometimes just kind of, I guess, rejuvenate those players, thinking, okay, I have signed for a team that wants to do well and wants to sign the players. Even Pogba, for example, I'm not saying he'll stay, but that might be like, oh, okay, yeah, we're going down the right direction, kind of thing. So yeah, I think he's a good player. Put him on the right. It creates problems in terms of selection, which is what you want at a big club, right? Like look at Chelsea in the final. Do they leave Ziyech out? Do they leave who do they play? They played who did they play in the end? Kai Havertz they played at the end, and then they left
They left
left
Pulisic on the bench.
Pulisic was on the
Yeah.
bench. And you kind of want that for a top team. You don't know, like even Liverpool at the moment I know they had injuries, but bringing Jota in, there was that whole thing of who your front three is, who's going to be your front three. Is it going to be Salah? Is Mane going to get dropped? Is Jota going to play? And you want that at the top clubs. When United had Rooney, Berbatov, Tevez, Ronaldo, you kind of want that. And at the moment, United don't have that. We're having to put players in there who I feel like Solskjaer doesn't really trust. Like Dan James will play against Leeds and then he won't play again for the next 6 games. So I think having someone like Sancho, okay, he's going to be competing against Martial, Rashford, Pogba playing on the left, Cavani, and you want that for a big club. So yeah, I think that's a big signing if
Yeah,
it happens. Yeah.
yeah. It's just it was supposed to happen last summer, wasn't it? And now,
I think it's more or less done. From what I'm reading, at the moment, personal terms and stuff have been agreed. It was kind of like the Bruno fiasco. Like there was a lot of talk, didn't happen, and then the talk, like personal terms were agreed, and then the season signing happened. So I think this same thing with Sancho. Last season it didn't quite happen. Personal terms have been agreed behind the scenes now, and I think it will probably be announced after the Euros.
Yeah,
would you have
just
him at Liverpool here?
It's a tough one, right? Because
Yeah, but
yes, I probably would take him, but I think there's another rumor that's going around about the possibility of the scouts looking at Rafinha from Leeds, who let's be honest, Leeds basically got him for a bargain signing. And they're probably going to get good money out of him if they do move him on for like 30, 40 million elsewhere. Already has a proven record in the Premier League after last season. About Sancho, I think he's a good technical player. But like in terms of Premier League experience, I know that he's came through the system at City. But looking at the Liverpool squad now, we've got a front three plus Jota, who came in last season. If we want to add to that to make it more competitive, I'd rather see someone who's already has experience in the Premier League beforehand to join. Although Sancho would be a nice to have player. Yeah, I'd probably look somewhere close to home first beforehand. Um, yeah, that's pretty much all I'm gonna say. The only thing that I will say after that, I'm not gonna believe anything about this whole Sancho thing, given that it's been going on for pretty much a year now, if not a little bit longer, until Fabrizio Romano tweets that "Here we go" post on Twitter and the rest of social media. I am not gonna believe anything.
yes, that's fair enough, I think. So in terms of transfers, there's not really a great deal else. Obviously, we know Kane wants to move on from Tottenham, so say, and Haaland looks like he might leave. Are there any other transfers that?
Aguero to Barcelona.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They're very financially. They're just so skint, aren't they? Barcelona.
It
They need the Super League to happen, but oh, what's this? We found 250,000 euros a week for Aguero.
you know what I find the whole situation ridiculous is that Barcelona sold Luis Suarez to Atletico. Like the one thing fundamentally in football, especially if you have a rival, you never sell one of your best players to a rival. And look what happens. Like it ended up being they weren't even in the title race at the very last game. It was between Atletico and Real, and Suarez basically scored a goal which probably helped Atletico to win that title. I mean, they had such a resounding lead anyway, and they almost bottled it. But you know, football and its unpredictability, and somehow they've still managed to get through and win the title. But Barcelona finding all this money to sign all these free signings. I mean, Memphis Depay is also another player that they're looking at. Genie Wijnaldum, who obviously isn't renewing his contract at Liverpool.
What's weird about Barca and Madrid, I find, is that the loyalty they show to the players. It's a bit weird, isn't it? Like
the loyalty they show to their managers is also to say it can also
yeah,
be
it's the
in question
same.
as
But
well.
even the fans, like I'm always a bit disappointed when I see like them booing their own players and things like that, and
Like hankies at Madrid and that. So
yeah, and like Bale, like what they like Bale in the final scoring 2 goals against Liverpool. He had like a couple of good seasons as well, and then they like, oh, he disrespected the club. But I think it came from the club first before he started doing the whole flag thing, and he put what is it, Wales, golf, and then Madrid or something like that.
In
But
that order.
yeah, in that order. But I think that happened after he felt like he wasn't appreciated. I don't think that came first.
and also, it's not like he's gone and had it printed, is it? Some fans giving it him. I don't know whether he knew what it said when he held it up. But, I mean, the Madrid fans are a nightmare. They're just.
Have you seen what Real Madrid did in the just recent tweet that went viral a little bit? I don't know if you guys saw it. They put a tweet up of them winning the Champions League or something. I think it was the Champions League or La Liga. I'm not sure. It was like a trophy lifting, and they cropped Ronaldo up, and that was the official Real Madrid Twitter account. And people are just obviously commenting on there saying, "How do you disrespect the legend like that? I'll probably arguably one of the best players to ever play for your club." And you post a picture and the Ronaldo's on the side and they've cropped him out completely.
That is, if they've done that out of pettiness, that's ridiculous. But
yeah, and they have been. I went and checked. I couldn't believe it, so I went on it, and it was actually their official Twitter account, and they've done that. Apparently, some people are saying it's because of the allegations of towards Ronaldo about the whole rape charge and all of that, and they don't want to be associated with him. But it's just like I'm sure he was proven innocent, right?
I don't know. All I know is that there were allegations. I don't know whether anything come of it.
Yeah, well, innocent till proven guilty, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah. But regardless, like I just think, like I said, the booing and things like that. Suarez, what I don't even like Suarez, but what he did for Madrid, you can't, not Madrid, sorry, Barca, you can't argue with what he's done and how he's done it. But just the way like he was quickly dismissed, and it's like, yeah, we don't need you anymore. Off you go. It's just a bit, I don't know, a bit disrespectful. Like you can never see English clubs doing that to like you'll never see Chelsea do that to Lampard or United doing that to like Giggs or Scholes, or you wouldn't really see that, would you?
Yeah, I think the other thing to note is like he's like, off you go, we don't need you anymore, and then he just goes off, joins that Atletico. It's like, you know what, screw you guys. I'm gonna bang a few goals in and win the title with Atletico. If you don't need me, I'm just like it's a bit like karma, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think revenge is kind of served best cold, right? And Suarez kind of proved it this season. Um, yeah, I don't want to talk about Spanish football fans or Barcelona or Real Madrid fans or their fan bases, but I do feel like there is a certain lack of respect, especially for like the way that Zidane came out in the interview afterwards when he left Real Madrid, and it just astonishes me how a club legend who then goes on to manage the team, not just once but twice, wins a ton of Champions Leagues for them, as a manager, and still gets dismissed and treated like that, even though he says he's walked out. It feels like
Yeah.
they
To be
lost.
honest, I do think there's a little bit of Zidane thinking that it is a sinking ship at Madrid. Like, I do think there's a little bit of that. I don't think Madrid, like you look at that Madrid team, and as a manager, or even like a manager for a different team, I don't think you're dying to go to Madrid at this stage, unless like you're a manager looking to make a name for yourself and say that it puts Real Madrid on your CV. I don't think you're looking at Madrid and thinking, I can't wait to go to Madrid with Ramos obviously probably leaving, Varane probably leaving. There's no other players in that team that stands out for me. I know Hazard's there still, but he's not having the best time at Madrid. It's probably one of the worst Madrid teams, since us lot have been watching football, I would say, arguably. Um, so I don't think like I think Zidane, if the team was good and despite how he was treated a little bit, he might still stay on. But I think the way he's looking at that club, he's thinking, I want out of this place, man. Like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the other thing to note is that these clubs have been really impacted badly by the pandemic in terms of financially. Like if it wasn't for COVID and everything that's happened, I think they could go out and just spend big money on players. And unfortunately, with no fans in the stadiums and also their TV rights and the money that they get from broadcasting isn't the same level as the Premier League. Like financially, if you think about all the wages they pay for their players, they're gonna struggle this transfer window, and like you can see it with Barcelona just trying to scrape free signings anywhere they can. And then I think you've just mentioned a name that I think we should discuss a little bit more. Sergio Ramos is looking like he's going to be on his way out, and he's not going to re-sign a contract at Real. So, is this a player that you would like to see in the Premier League, or do you even think, given the past that he wasn't fond of the Premier League per se?
You say he's past it.
Yeah. I still think that he could do a job at City or
Man,
any Premier League team. Like,
I think he'll go to PSG.
yeah, I kind of agree with you on that one, but I think if he is to go to the Premier League, I think it would be a welcome addition to see if he actually can hack it. Like, I know there's always this joke that a lot of British people say is like, yeah, but can you really do it in a cold rainy night in Stoke? But
Mm.
I would like to see if he can actually play in like a Burnley at Turf Moor.
It'd be funny to
Yeah,
see him at Turf Moor.
yeah.
No, do you think
Raining man.
even if he doesn't do it, do you think he's at a stage now in his career where it doesn't make or break his career? Like if he comes and fails in the Premier League, you're not going to turn around and say, "Oh, this guy's a fraud."
I think he's at the age now where you can just go, nah, he's what, 35?
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm
You,
saying.
you
Yeah,
say
so
you say that, but look at how like players who have been phenomenal in one particular team and then end up going to the Premier League and completely flopping. So like Chelsea have had two I can name,
Shevchenko.
Shevchenko and Balak. Balak less so because he did.
Yeah, Ballack, right?
Yeah, he did all
Ballack was
right,
alright.
but nowhere near as what he was at Bayern. And then you compare that another Chelsea example to Thiago Silva, who everyone thought he was too old, he's past it. But his reading ability in defence kind of made up for it in the Premier League.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I
Yeah,
actually realized how good of a defender he is after he came to Chelsea.
yeah.
And that sounds silly because he's obviously at PSG. Yeah, but you just kind of think to yourself like sometimes we do have that. I guess I don't know British mindset of you're not really good enough until you come here and prove it.
It's arrogance, isn't it? Because
Sorry?
it's arrogance, isn't it? From
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. That British arrogance. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And to be honest, I kind of stand by it as well because I do think that the Premier League is a different level, and if you can
oh,
come here and you can prove it, then there's something else.
yeah, it's the most competitive league in the world, isn't it? I'm not being funny. Like the amount of times you see like a Burnley, I don't, I shouldn't have said Burnley because I feel like picking on, but like Burnley, a Crystal Palace, like one of the smaller clubs turning over one of the big teams. It's way more frequent that it happens in the Premier League as opposed to say the Bundesliga, um, Serie A, La Liga. It is far and away the most competitive league, and especially now when everybody's saying no, it's La Liga. La Liga is the best. It's
I
definitely not
think
the best league at the moment.
I
wasn't
think the
there.
Champions League proves it as well at the moment with how many British clubs or English clubs are going into the semi-finals and finals and things like that.
Yeah, but then you can have La Liga fanatics arguing that Real Madrid have won it pretty much like every other season, especially
And
in the
also,
2010s.
the seventh place team in La Liga this year won the Europa League. So
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but we all know what happened there. I mean, the other thing I would,
Old news, man.
yeah, the other thing that I would argue is that I think there's even an interview with Pep saying that the Premier League is the hardest league that he's ever managed in. If you
yeah.
He
think about,
loves it as well.
yeah,
I'm so surprised by how passionate Pep is with the Premier League.
Oh
Like
man, it's
but
because the league is such a like a symmetry of Pep because the Premier League's so intense, and Pep Guardiola is the most intense person in football.
it's like he
What's
loves
that?
the Prem as much as he loves being a manager of City. Like in a weird way. Like, like
Yeah,
a lot of managers, they were, oh yeah, I want to manage Liverpool, I want to manage United. But for him, it's like I just want to be a manager in the Premier League.
yeah.
And
He
with that
gets it,
comes
doesn't
being a manager of City.
he?
I think it's
Yeah,
a challenge as well because if you think about the Spanish league, it's all very technical. A lot of the football teams are based around this whole possession base, all tiki taka football. Serie A and Bundesliga have very distinct styles, and
nation.
even though tactically teams might set out differently in terms of the philosophy itself, it's all built on the same foundations. With the Premier League, because we have all of these different foreign players, different foreign coaches, and we have very, very different contrasting styles of play between teams. And we have a lot of pragmatic coaches like Brighton, for example, with Potter. Fantastic football there. But you also have like I know I pick on Sam Allardyce a lot, but you still have that archaic 4-4-2 long ball football. And then Jurgen Klopp's brought his gegenpressing football, and then Pep obviously has his own brand of football that he's had with Barcelona that he brought to Bayern, and now he's brought to City. It's a different challenge every game because you don't know what team you're gonna come up with, and they're always gonna give you a different challenge. You cannot basically set out the same 11 players playing the same way for each team.
Yeah, yeah. But on that note about Zidane, and people wanting to go to not wanting to go to Madrid, there's obviously a lot of managers that are available at the moment. Even with Spurs, there was like link to Conte going there, Pochettino coming back. Um, what else? There's still like this whole thing about Solskjaer, is he the man to how long should he be given next season? And then with Zidane being available now as well, is he going to go back to is he going to go to PSG? We touched upon it last week a little bit, but there's a lot of talks about managers at the moment, isn't there? Almost as much as transfers this season.
Yeah, probably more so to be honest. And I mean, you got Ancelotti's. He'd been confirmed at Madrid, and
Oh,
it was
he's
a bit.
confirmed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It was a bit left field to be honest, and and I said that I thought it'd be sort of a unknown Spanish dude getting the gig for a year, but they've gone with Ancelotti, and I seen Sky Sports News, and I was just like, hey, but he's done all right at Everton. Don't get me wrong, but
let's be honest, like he's a tried and tested formula. Like if you think
yeah,
about all the trophies he's
basically,
won in any team that he's managed, it makes sense. It's a bit odd him going back to Madrid after the way that he left. But if you think about it, like you're managing Everton, and you had a project that was pretty much at the start of its foundations, like with all the players that he brought in last season. But even so, if a club like Real Madrid comes calling for you,
yeah, of course.
in terms of the stature, in terms of reputation,
Yeah, but for Ancelotti, you
yeah,
would think like he's thinking, I've been there, I've done that kind of thing. Especially at Everton, I think his job. I mean, I didn't realize he's been
yeah,
confirmed actually, but I was speaking to someone about it, and I was saying, he's actually his what he's done there is a bit underappreciated. And the reason I say that is I know they finished 10th, and you're thinking, okay, well, 10th isn't great considering it's Ancelotti and I guess the stature he has and whatnot. But I do think like obviously Calvert-Lewin is one of his main players. He was injured for a bit of the season. Rodriguez was injured. They don't have a massive squad. They have a good squad, but they don't have a massive squad. Considering two of their best players were potentially, well, not necessarily, they were injured, sorry, for about I don't know 3-4 months. Um, that does that does take its toll on a team. It's arguably the same as Liverpool losing Salah and Van Dijk. So you lost Van Dijk, but luckily you had Salah. Now, if you lost Salah as well, I don't know, would you have made top four? Same take Bruno and Maguire out of United, would struggle. So I think them losing two big players did affect them. And considering they don't have the squad to fill those roles either, I think finishing 10th wasn't a bad season. And if he stayed on another season, I think managers can attract big names. And I think Ancelotti could have got some decent names in and potentially challenge for top four next season.
yeah.
Well, he started that last year, didn't he? Because Alan wouldn't have signed for Everton if Ancelotti wasn't the manager. I don't think.
James Rodriguez as well. I
Yeah,
don't think he would have signed. But the thing is, it was a project that he kind of brought into when he joined the team, and you can see that he was getting the backing from the board, and also like Everton are moving to a new stadium. They beat Liverpool at Anfield. Don't forget that. I mean, from an Evertonian perspective, they're probably thinking, "Look, we've beaten Liverpool on home ground. We haven't done this for time, and we've got all these players in because of Ancelotti. The club is on an upward trajectory. We want to be in the position where we want to challenge for the top six, top four eventually. But losing Ancelotti at this time is going to be somewhat I don't know how to put it. It's basically going to put a halt to their project in terms of
yeah.
them going into a big club. But as I said, Real Madrid and its reputation and the stature of Real
Well,
Madrid.
Gerrard's going to Liverpool, Everton, isn't he?
Well, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Rafa or Gerrard are not being are in contention for the
Yeah,
running.
Gerard definitely won't be getting that, but I think this is such an important appointment for Everton because they get it wrong, it's going to set them back about 5 years again to get players off the wage budget because they need to carry on building and not just try and get somebody that's a big, massive, glamorous name. Because they're not the finished article yet. They still need somebody who's got that experience of taking a club that's good, but building them to be great. Because if it reminds me a bit of when West Ham bought in Pellegrini, and they just didn't have the squad to do what he likes to do. And Everton fans would probably hate it, but I'd seriously be considering Dyche because he's built
Oh wow!
Burnley up. No, no, no. I'm not saying that he'd be amazing and he'd win the Premier League with them, but for where they are and what they're trying to do now, he knows the Premier League. He could bring in players, I think, to take him to that next level. And yeah, all right, this football's not the best, but I don't know. I
mean-
just fear them, like bringing in somebody from a random league that's done really well at the best team in that division. I'd say another name then. Gaultier, who's just won the league at Lille.
But hasn't he joined Lyon?
Has he joined? Has he? I
Let me just
know that it was rumored, but I'd certainly be asking the question if I was running Everton, which I'm not.
Well, he has. Nothing's been confirmed yet, but I think that
He's going to Everton, mate.
that was the rumors. I think there's.
I was sorry, Maxi. I laughed when you said that the next appointment could be so important that it can set them back 5 years, and I laughed because it's actually like painfully true how one decision or maybe like that appointment of a manager can set you back so far. It's yeah.
Like Spurs and Jose.
Yeah.
Look, what a disaster that is.
I think even United and I think Van Gaal, believe it or not, I think Van Gaal, very, very bad impact on United.
Because, I mean, I don't like jumping back all the time, but the other week we spoke about David Moyes and you said you thought did you say that you thought David Moyes did a better job than Van Gaal?
Yeah.
And I wanted to say during that, if they'd have stuck with David Moyes all the way through to the end of Mourinho's reign, I got no doubt that they'd have been in a stronger position than they were.
100%. I agree.
Because this is what I mean. If I wouldn't want it to happen purely because I like the fact that West Ham seem to have a manager that fits at the moment and is doing well. But if Everton could get Moyes back, I think that would be the best outcome for him because he knows how to build and he knows the Premier League. He knows what players are going to improve and what players he needs to get rid of. So I just hope that they don't try and get like a really glamorous foreign name in that's got no Premier League experience.
They do need a manager though who can keep the players because you don't want to just start this project and then just offload all the players because they don't believe in the project anymore. Or
Alan loves Sean. What are you on about?
Mate, come on. I mean, there's a lot of other managers who currently don't have a job right now. So, like Eddie Howe, Frank Lampard. And then I think this leads us on to the next one, which we briefly mentioned about Spurs. But Antonio Conte basically having discussions with Spurs and then snubbing them. I mean, I don't know if anyone wants to start on that, but what is all of that about?
It's getting to the point now where this is getting quite embarrassing for Spurs because nobody wants the job. And they've like we said a minute ago, they shot themselves in the foot by getting Mourinho. When it happened, it was like the most un-Spurs Daniel Levy kind of decision. And I think the majority of people sort of thought that it was never going to work. And it's definitely not worked. They, for whatever reason, I mean, how long ago was Mourinho sacked now? It's got to be like 5-6 weeks. And they don't look any closer to appointing anyone. And I mean, they're supposedly one of the big six that were going to be in the European Super League, and nobody wants to manage them. It's ridiculous. They're not big spenders. They're losing Kane, their best player. So I don't know where Spurs go now. I said it a few weeks back. I think Pochettino will end up back there.
I still don't think he's going to leave PSG. But I honestly, right now, Spurs are in a really bad position because the Euro is about to start. They don't have a coach to replace Jose. And like if they get a coach 6 weeks later when the Euros finish, how much time is a new manager going to come in and be able to, one, sign players, and two, actually shape his team or build on something that is already there? Yeah. At this rate, I am actually thinking that Ryan Mason might actually have to start the season as Tottenham Hotspur coach.
No. I can't see.
But the thing is that like everyone that they've spoken to so far doesn't seem keen on the role.
I think I think they know they're not going to be backed by looking at the history of Spurs the last couple of years with Pochettino only signing one player in 2 seasons or something, and then obviously the whole Mourinho thing. Mourinho always says he never gets back. Wherever he's been, he's always him against the world, isn't it? And then I think whoever's coming like Conte now, Inter Milan, he had the same issue with. Obviously, feeling like he's not being supported and whatnot. Um, Going into Spurs, I think obviously he feels the same thing. At the same time, knowing Kane has handed in a transfer request, that is again sinking ship, right? You don't want to go Spurs right now. You don't ever want to say that a player is bigger than the club, but it's almost that situation with Kane now, where if Kane leaves, what is left of Spurs really? And that's what I just think at the moment. Like, I think Conte is probably talking, and he's probably said is Harry Kane leaving for sure? And if the club are turning around and saying yes, like we've come to the end of talks with him and he's made his decision, he's definitely leaving. Conte's thinking, forget that. Looking elsewhere. So I think unless they get a I don't think they're going to get a big manager, which they're probably looking for now. I think after Mourinho and obviously what Pochettino turned out to be in the end, they're probably thinking they're up there with almost the Arsenal syndrome of we're bigger than we are kind of thing. And we can only get the big names, or we want the big names. And I think managers are looking at Spurs thinking, we don't want to go there. It's just gonna tarnish our reputation.
Well, they are going to get that. Well, it looks like it's. I'm not going to say they are definitely going to, but it looks like they are going to get the former Juventus sporting director to be their director of football. So that Fabio Paratici.
Churchy or something, isn't it?
Sorry.
What's his name? A Churchy or something?
I can't pronounce it, but Fabio
Oh, no.
Paratici, or how you
Patrici, yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah. So I know this is a bit of a question mark for me because personally looking at it, I don't think this is going to be anywhere as effective as a director of football at, like, for example, City or at Liverpool, because Daniel Levy has such a grasp on the club itself. He basically influences every decision in that club, even if they,
Basically,
yeah,
he's getting him in so that the manager can moan at the sporting director. And then the
yeah,
sporting director just gives Daniel Levy the concise version. And
yeah, pretty
that's all it
much.
is. It's just a buffer between the manager and Levy, so that the manager in Levy's ear all the time, and Levy can just go around doing what he wants.
So, Nuno Esperanto Santo, anyone?
Yeah, apparently Everton and Palace, isn't it? In French.
Yeah, I mean, surely Spurs should be looking at him as well.
Yeah,
Because I don't know what's going on, but it's a bit embarrassing saying that they're in advanced talks with Antonio Conte, and then he comes back and says, "Nah, actually, no thanks." So I don't know how those talks broken down, but something to me doesn't seem quite right there. But yeah, a lot of change in management. So we have vacancies in Everton, Spurs, Wolves, Palace. I think Wolves are close to replacing,
Benfica manager, isn't
yeah, the former Benfica manager. And then yeah, Palace is a question mark. Everton's a question mark, and then
Well, apparently, from from what I've sort of seen, um, Santos, Espirito Santo is going to either Palace or Everton. It's sort of toss of a coin. It's up to him. Um, I mean, that'd probably be a better coup for Palace, I think, rather than for Everton. But yeah, I really rate the guy. I think he's passionate. I think he's got a fantastic beard, and yeah, I mean, Wolves, the season they were in the Championship seems a long time ago now, because I remember City played them over sort of Christmas time and we were first and second, and we lost 3-1 at home, and our season just fell apart after that. But they were brilliant that season in the Championship. They played three at the back, and yeah, they just completely dominated the league. So yeah, I'd like to see Santos stay in the Premier League, but I don't know who it's going to be with.
yeah, I think we should leave it there on the managerial merry-go-round. Just a quick one before we move on to closing out in the last 5 minutes. Lamb doesn't seem to be too happy with us if you've just recently read the messages. I'm not going to read out what he said, but shame on you all, and something about the City and Chelsea predictions. Something about the 38th minute of episode 3. I think we should leave it as that and move just like towards our final closing point. So Obviously, we're less than a week away from the Euros now. So it all kicks off on Friday with Turkey v Italy. But I think we've seen some news that's happened quite recently, just after the Austria friendly, that Trent has been ruled out of the tournament. I don't think there's been a replacement announced yet. But yeah, keen to get your thoughts on that. And then like going on to next week, what are you looking forward to in terms of the Euros?
I'm just looking forward to football, man. I just want to see like games 3 times. What is it? 3 games a day,
Yeah, I think so.
like that. Yeah, I think Lamb's just ironing his Turkey shirt at the moment, getting it ready for the.
That's why he was writing his name and number on the back. That's why he can't be on the pod tonight.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait.
Yeah, same.
It's weird, isn't it? When the season finishes, you just want the next bit of football to start again.
Give me some footy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I look forward to it, and I think it's going to be an interesting tournament this year because obviously it's the venues are spread across Europe. So I mean that may end up working in England's favour, but there's so many strong teams, in it this year.
I mean, I think we'll probably have another episode beforehand anyway, where we will go through the groups, and just give us we'll just give a quick update in terms of like what we think it's going to be. I think Lamb's just sent another message to you. You might want to read that. But yeah, going back on point, I think we will have a preview to the Euros beforehand in the coming week. I'm a little bit disappointed that Trent was injured. I'm not gonna lie. I do feel like he does add something to the squad, especially with his creativity.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have him as backup for Reece James.
Yeah, very funny. Yeah. I mean, it's Gareth Southgate, and given how Reece James performed phenomenally, he's incredible. In that Champions League final, I think he's.
Let's be honest, Southgate. I think he's definitely starting with 5 at the back, isn't he?
Yeah,
And
it's going to be Carl Walker at right centre back and Reece James at right wing back.
Straight put 1-0 versus like the lesser teams. I hope we go there and it's entertaining. Like obviously against the bigger clubs, be a bit more defensive, a bit more tactical, but hopefully against the so-called smaller clubs, it is a bit more attacking football, considering the players we've got.
I don't think we'll play 5 at the back in the group stages.
I mean, Croatia is probably our hardest game, the most difficult one for sure. Czech Republic and Scotland, you'd assume that England would be able to compete in those games.
We've got Bristol City have got a player in the Czech Republic squad. That's how good they are. So yeah, but we should be beating these teams.
Having said that, like we've got 3 games at home. Every group game is at Wembley, so literally there is no excuses in terms of poor performances. Like there's going to be fans in the stadium as well. So like, without being like taking the optimistic, arrogant English approach or British approach and things like, oh yeah, this is our time. Football's coming home, with the final being in Wembley as well. I do feel like we do have some sort of argument that we have a squad that can be able to get to the latter stages of the tournament. The only concern that I have is that England v Scotland is going to be a massive rivalry, and we have it in the group stages, and that concerns me because like Scotland might just want to turn up and just spoil the parade.
I'll tell you what, Stevie Clark, the Scotland manager, he's a good coach, and he has done really well with Scotland. I mean, they drew with Netherlands the other night.
Yeah, exactly.
I know that they weren't sort of full strength, but I mean, I think I know Croatia are definitely the best sort of opponent in terms of technical ability that we're going to have in the group stage, but I think Scotland's going to be the toughest game. It's going to be at Wembley. It's going to be the first real intense atmosphere for the players for a long time. And yeah, is that the third game?
It's the second game.
Is it? Who's it for? Czech Republic?
Croatia, then Scotland, then Czech Republic. So Scotland's on Friday the 18th, and then I think on the 22nd, we have Czech Republic, if I remember correctly.
We could be out after 2 games.
geez, in a effectively home tournament, even though it's
Yeah.
spread across Europe, that would be depressing. But football's football, anything can happen. Just remember that.
It can.
Next step, we're saying or we're predicting which teams are going through. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for the next podcast, that's what we'll be doing, and it will be more of like a Euro 2020 preview.
Yeah.
Plus, we probably will have some more information about this merry-go-round of the managerial situation, especially in the Premier League. But yeah, all I can say is that we'll wait and see what happens, and I guess we'll come back with a few more previews of Euro 2020. But it should be a good tournament.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Right.
Cool.
On that note, I think we should be good to close out. Given that we are a new podcast, I seem to be saying this every podcast, every episode. But don't forget to subscribe and like to our various social media channels. So be sure to subscribe to this YouTube page if you're liking the content so far. We also have an Instagram and a Twitter at Internet Podcast, and we also have a Facebook page, also Internet Podcast. We're shortly going to be onboarding all of our podcasts and uploading them to SoundCloud as well. So we will be providing more information on that in the next episode, just so you can actually play back the audio if you don't want to use YouTube. It's just another alternative to access our recordings. And then yeah, that's pretty much all from me. Ibby, Max, do you have any other closing notes before we
No.
go offline?
No, just
Listening or watching.
looking forward to the Euros.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bring it on.
So yeah, let's hope England doesn't fail to disappoint. Interpret that however you like. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching or listening to our podcast, and we hope to see you in another episode. And thank you once again for tuning in. Until then, take care and bye bye for now.